gotta find something good enough. And the more often that we choose better, and the more often that we choose something that's good enough, like the quicker our life changes. You can be a completely different person in a year just by choosing a little better each day.
Josh Wood, welcome to the Mindful Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you. I want to get straight into it because what I love about your stuff is that you keep it simple and accessible. And that's what I'm about, is what this podcast is about as well. So, please explain, what do you mean by eat like an adult?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's an interesting thing, when I when I put the concept together, my idea was like I need to have certain phrasing that challenges people, while at the same time kind of has an intuitive aspect to it. And really, the idea is that an adult understands their future is shaped by the decisions that they make today. Like the main aspect of being an adult, not just eating like an adult, but adult behavior is making mindful and conscious decisions and then taking ownership of those outcomes. If we want to have money in the bank, we start saving our pennies. That's a decision we make today for a future. If we want to get big and strong, we start putting in the reps today so that we are different in the future. It's the same with food. If we want to have a healthy, long, and vibrant life, we got to start eating consciously today.
I was thinking of you yesterday, my friend, because I was definitely not eating like an adult. And in fact, I think I I think I have it here. Yes, I do. I was traveling back from Prague yesterday, and you know the way everything, I don't know what they think happens to us in airports. They go, "Oh, you like eating a jelly from time to time? Well, then you obviously want 2 kilos of them." Or you like chocolate? Well, then you need 6 kilos of it, the biggest
Yeah,
bar
of
you.
course.
So I
That's
bought
a
this.
that's a
I bought
massive bar.
I know it's one
How
of those
big is
big,
that?
it's the big airport
I've
bars.
I've never seen a
Here's
bar of chocolate
my
that big.
head for
Wow.
scale.
It's like
So I bought
400
this.
grams of chocolate or something.
Yeah. Now look, it's 300 grams.
Oh, it's
So
close.
it's practically bite size. But I bought it. I sort of get this sort of swell of uncontrollable excitement in those airport shops, and I bought it, and then I was thinking, and that was I am not eating like an adult. Josh would not be happy with this. So how do you help me with this childish chocolate
Well,
addiction?
so my thing is too is like a lot of the things that people think are really terrible for them aren't actually the worst things. It's just volume. It's
Mm,
quantity. Chocolate is not terrible for you. In fact, chocolate cocoa has a lot of health benefits. It's something that's calming. It's a great soul food. It's full of minerals, tons of antioxidants. The more it tends towards sugar and less of cocoa, that ratio kind of skews. But it's not a terrible thing. And in general, there's a reason that those bars have little squares for you to break off because the serving size is quite small. Uh, so I don't have anything against chocolate, but
mm. In
you
my
know the
defense, it will take me a long time to get through that. I do
yeah.
only have a couple of squares at a time, but I feel like I need to have all the chocolate at
Well,
the
if you
same
can if you can
time.
limit yourself to a couple squares, you're doing fine because
Okay.
the whole idea of eating like an adult is about making conscious decisions. So if you're like, I really want to enjoy this thing, it's going to bring a lot of value and joy to me because there are foods like that. Food is such a primal aspect to human experience. Like it's social, it's emotional, and you could say it's spiritual. Like there's so many things about food that is wonderful outside of the nutrition value.
Mm,
Um, so if you say like this is something that I'm going to enjoy and I'm really going to enjoy it, and it's not something you do every day, you keep it a treat, and it's not something that you have all the time or in excessive amounts, that's fine. That's a net benefit. Uh, Now you don't have to go through that whole process of justifying it if you can just limit yourself and notice that there's no detriment to your life. Great. Uh, the problem is when it becomes too much, becomes
mm.
detrimental. It's not chocolate, it's the amount of chocolate. It's not a burger, it's all the other stuff. you know?
It's all the burgers.
It's all the burgers. It's the
Yeah.
cumulative burgers. It's the universal many burgers.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a bit of time on the road over the last couple of months with my tour, and man, I definitely have been. I had to work really hard not to just slide down into like the worst eating habits because, you're stopping off at motorway places that are just mind-boggling the amount of crap they sell in there. Like really trying to
Oh
find
yeah.
something like a bag of nuts or anything that's mildly healthy is really hard. So, the world doesn't make it easy for us. But I want to dive into the 6 habits that you recommend. And if people haven't seen your TEDx talk from Hobart, I really recommend they go on. It's only 15 minutes long, but there's so many nuggets in there, and I love it. So, what's the Apple test? That's number one.
Yeah, so the Apple test is probably the like prime test. It's the main one. Because if we're looking at what the habits do, there are ways for us to sort of break the habitual feeding cycle. Because most of our habits and how we eat is something that we developed from mimicking the people who raised us, or throwing all that out the window and in a state of teenage rebellion, doing whatever we want, and then continuing that into adulthood. We all do it. No shame. But the Apple test is like the main one for starting this conscious stopping of the mindless feeding. So the idea is if you find yourself at work or at home, it's probably going to be 10 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, that time of day, and you're digging through your drawer looking for your little tasty bit of something, something in a packet, the rest of your 300 grams of chocolate that you got at the airport, whatever it is. And you're digging around and you gotta ask yourself, just stop. If you, as soon as you catch yourself doing that, stop and ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I actually hungry? If Coach Josh was to magically show up behind you in your office with a bright red, beautiful apple, perfectly ripe, delicious apple, and said, "Hey, you're hungry, eat this." Well, a hungry person, assuming they don't have issues with apples, would eat that. That's real food. It's sweet. It's satiating. Checks a lot of boxes. A hungry person would eat the apple. But if you're just like, no, no, I need to have this chocolate. I need to have this extra coffee. I need to have this alcohol, whatever it is, this thing that you're grasping onto, you're craving. You're not hungry. You're craving. You're dealing with something else. It might
Mm,
be low blood sugar, which needs to be addressed as well. It could be a lack of hydration. You could be stressed. You could be tired. It could be so many things that lead to these cravings where you just have to have this thing, but it's not truly
mm.
hunger because a hungry person would eat an apple.
Yeah, the hydration thing is interesting because there's definitely occasions where I find myself reaching for something that may not be the best food choice. And then, or I just have that feel, when you're at home and you're like, I just want something and I don't know what it is. So you do the
Yep.
tour of the cupboards, and
Yep.
you're just looking in there, looking in the fridge, and you're like, and sometimes I'm clever enough to remember maybe you're just thirsty. So drink
Yeah.
a big glass of water and then see if you still want the thing. And nine
Bingo.
times out of 10, you don't. And nine times, it actually is dehydration. And that's something that is kind of new to me that I didn't really realize. So I love hearing you mention it.
Yeah, and something that we don't think about too on the hydration spectrum is of like whole foods are hydrating. They add a net increase to our water across the day, fruits, vegetables, meats, that kind of thing.
Mm,
And so if we're looking at like what is the sort of evolutionary craving, if we're like, oh, I really want something sweet, what would a sweet thing be 10,000 years ago? Maybe some berries, maybe some hard fruit, whatever. Things weren't as delicious back then, but it would also be something that is hydrating, generally speaking. Um, but it's also, like you said, a good habit to just be like, oh, if I'm looking for something, it's not a meal. I don't want to eat a meal. Have a glass of water, then decide if I am hungry, if I'm looking for that sweet thing. And then, apple test, water test, like they cover sort of a similar thing of breaking that unconscious craving action and
mm.
say, am I actually hungry?
Well, it's funny. Well, we try and use it on my 13-year-old daughter who's like ransacking the house for snacks. And we do that parental thing of, look, if you're hungry, just eat an apple. And, it
Yeah.
is the most annoying thing you can say to a 13-year-old
Yeah.
girl. She's like, no, I'm just going to dig deeper into the cereal box here.
Yeah.
Um,
Teenagers, we'll let them grow out of that.
Yeah, I guess the next one kind of taps into what I was saying about, being in the motorway services station and you're trying to find, you may not be able to make the perfect decision, but maybe you can make a better one and choose better is your second habit. Explain that one for us.
Yeah, I mean, choose better is as simple as it sounds. Like we always kind of forget we can do a little better. Like if it's not 100% perfect, we're not going to do it. And choose better kind of comes out of this idea that I grew up in the US. I live in Tasmania now, and I've been in Australia my whole adult life, but I still remember the portion sizes. Every time I go back, I'm reminded the portion sizes, the size of the soft drink that you get is just
Mm.
wild. Uh, and
The
it's so
first
easy
time
to,
I saw an American big gulp, those
oh,
big,
yeah, yeah,
the ones that you'd get in the 7-Eleven. I
yeah,
just
like two
couldn't
liters.
believe. Yeah, it was like literally drinking the biggest bottle you could find in the supermarket in one sitting.
Yeah, I mean, we used to get those in high school for parties. You go down to the Quick Trip, and it's a dollar. It was a
Mm.
dollar 27 for like a liter and a half of soda, and you can like mix and match and add extra syrups and stuff. So, but it was so easy and convenient to upsize everything. But
Mm.
choosing better would be choosing a size smaller. And so the idea is like if you have a choice between something that is a large, not good for you thing and a smaller, not good for you thing, well, why wouldn't you choose the smaller one? And the thing is like, oh, but I'm thirsty. Are you? Like if you're thirsty, drink water, but have your small, 8, 10 ounce soda and then drink some water. Or better yet, just get sugar free. Like then you're going to be killing two birds with one stone. You can drink more. You're not going to have the detriment of injecting 2 liters of sugar into your body, and you're going to get some hydration. Like you can always choose better.
Mm.
Like
It
you don't
reminds
have to
me of
settle
that
for the worst option.
the Tenacious D sketch at the drive-in. Don't know if you ever heard that, where he's like roaring into the little communication little
Mm.
speaker going, half Coke, half Diet Coke. I'm watching my figure.
Yeah, people do that.
Yeah. You're like, wow, the pounds will just be dropping off me with my half Coke, half Diet Coke option. Yeah, it makes me laugh because, myself and my wife are having this conversation. We're like, if we just make our own healthier treats, then when we do have that craving, at least if we reach for something, it'll be, Josh's choose better. And what was happening was we would, my wife would make this, amazing tray of these, healthier but still chocolatey whatever treats, and
Yeah.
and we'd get through a slab of it because it was that healthy. You just keep
Yeah.
going back every hour. You're like, "Wee, I think I can have another one." So, it can
Mm.
work against you the other way
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
you see that like with fad diets too. It's like, oh, it's a paleo treat. I'm eating paleo, so it's good for me. And it's like, ma'am, that's half coconut oil and half chocolate, and it's like a pound. Like that's still not that's still not good for you.
Yeah. Um, don't eat your emotions. I think we're all guilty of that. That's another one of your habits.
Mm. Yeah, that's it's one of those easier said than done things. And when I was
Mm.
doing my TEDx talk, that's the point where everyone kind of gives a nervous chuckle because it's like, ah, yeah, but it's not an easy thing. But the thing is, every time you feed or self-medicate your emotions, you're making it harder to regulate them in the long run. You're not working with a long-term healthy coping mechanism. So every time you catch yourself doing that, we have to start looking at, well, what can I do instead? And you could basically run the Apple test every time you're about to go eat the chocolate because you're sad. But the long-term ramifications are pretty dire. Like if we're always trying to medicate, and a lot of times it's not just food, it's alcohol too, or other things. Um, but if we're feeding our emotions, it's a pretty dark path to go down. And it's really important to start looking at like what coping mechanisms are going to help you manage that because if it's coming up all the time, it's an unmanaged thing.
Mm.
And
And what
it's
do you recommend with your clients if they are, look, I find if I'm, that guy in work is giving me a hard time or, my partner's having a go at me, I just find myself reaching for that stuff. It's where I get my
mm,
comfort. What do you recommend to people?
Fight Club.
Fight Club.
Yep. No.
Extreme, but okay, we'll
Yeah,
go
yeah,
with it.
yeah. That's it. That just I
Yeah.
just hope just make that the sound bite. That one.
Okay, Mary, here's your MMA gloves.
Yeah,
Now,
let's just duke it out. Well, the thing is like that, like I have a lot of suggestions, but it depends on the individual because there's no one size fits all. Fight Club
mm,
might actually be a valid option for people. I mean, I've been in combat sports my whole life, probably for a reason. Um, but it really depends on the individual. It depends on what drives them. It depends on what actually helps them feel like they're getting the most out of life.
mm,
And usually the chocolate and the wine, the pizza and things like that give you that sense of fulfillment for a very short time. Uh, and that's where we run into the issue because it's always this little pick me up every night, every
mm.
day,
Yeah, but
every weekend.
it's culturally marketed to us so heavily. Like it's everywhere. Even if you go back to that cheesy old show, which is a guilty pleasure for a lot of people, Golden Girls. That classic
Yeah.
scene when any of them had a problem, that was causing them some emotional distress. What were they doing? They were up in the middle of the night, sacrificing sleep and opening
Mm,
the largest tub of ice cream you've ever seen from the freezer. And they'd sit around that table and they'd comfort eat the ice cream. And that sort of conditioning, I think, is everywhere. It's
it
and
is.
and marketing agencies have used it for years to go, hey, you feeling a little bit upset? Here's your treat. You deserve it.
Mm,
Just set the world, that mean world aside for a moment and indulge. How often do you hear the word indulge? It's
oh,
that
I
kind of,
mean, it's great marketing because
mm,
marketing's all emotional.
yeah.
But it's one of those things. There is some truth to that. It does make you feel better, but it's temporary. And then over
Mm,
time, it makes you feel a lot worse, especially if it's so frequent that it's affecting your health in a in a poor way. Um, there's no easy way. You have to figure out what drives you. You have to recognize the habits. You have to start making conscious decisions and recognizing when you are just self-medicating. And that's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of times, it's only one of those things that happens either when people hit rock bottom and they realize that something hasn't been adding up to the life they want, or they hear the right message at the right time from the right person. And, my thing is like I can say these habits and I can do TEDx talks and go speak at local events and put videos out on the internet with all this great, wonderful wisdom because it is. But if it doesn't reach the right person at the right time in their life, it's just nonsense.
mm,
It's just background noise. Um, But the more that people have the opportunity to be exposed to something positive, the more likely it is going to click at the right time. And so, the marketing is if you're sad, get up and eat ice cream. And that's sort of insidious and it's all part of the culture. And so that's what people do. And hopefully, we can give people alternatives. First, to recognize that it's not a good idea, and then to find something else, whether it's exercise, whether it's breath work and meditation, whether it's, a hobby or a new passion or Fight Club.
mm. I really would have been into the Golden Girls a lot more if they had gotten up and suddenly started sparring around the kitchen table.
I mean, that would have been a good show.
Yeah, my money was on the angry small one. Um, say she's a fearsome bantamweight. Let's leave your habits for a second. We'll come back to them, but just want to dig into your own story a little bit. Obviously, as you say, you're an American living in Hobart, Tasmania. You haven't picked up, to my ear, even the tiniest bit of an Aussie accent. That takes some doing because I have a brother over there, and it's hard not to absorb that. I mean, my brother never really got the accent, but he still has his Irish accent, but his
Mm.
intonation is all Australian.
Yeah.
So he still goes up at the end of his sentences, but just not in an Australian accent.
Yeah, that's something. So it depends who I talk to. If I go talk to my family, they're like, "What are you saying?"
Mhm.
Like obviously, I don't have a. I mean, I have a very like northern Midwest accent. It's not East Coast, not West Coast. I don't have the Fargo style Minnesota accent. Minnesota's where I grew up.
So
Um,
disappointing. I love that
I
Fargo,
know
Minnesota
it
one.
it could have been good. But
To
I've been
your
over.
ears, just as an aside, to your ears, does that Fargo accent, does that sound, is that as sort of frustrating to you as maybe a hey skiddly eye diddly eye top of the morning to you Irish Irish accent that we hear in
That was
movies and
good.
TV shows?
That was good.
Is,
It comes natural.
is that the same thing for you when you see another murky drama set in deepest Minnesota? Do you go, oh God,
No,
here
because
we
people
go?
do sound like that.
Do
Like
they?
I've got relatives, but it's more towards Wisconsin. Um,
Okay.
I've got some relatives that have a bit more of that. I've known a few people. I think it's because my family came more so from Nebraska before moving up. No, it's just an interesting accent. Some
Mm.
people do the Minnesota, don't you know? And I'll be like, yeah, some people sound like that, but obviously I don't. And I've spent 18 years abroad, which is literally half my life. Like I've been in
Yeah.
Australia for 17 of those. Um, so I've picked up a lot of the dialect, and that's the thing is I'll use terminology that's very Commonwealth, and I'll use Australian pronunciation of like local places and things, especially because I got two young boys, and I try to be as consistent with their language learning as much as possible. Like, but I can't
Mm.
I can't do it all the time. Um, so it is interesting. Like it's more dialectical than it is accent. So
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh yeah, I used to live in Melbourne, but my family would be like, Melbourne, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
We-
do lilt at the end of my sentences a bit more than I used to, and my family's kind of picking up on that, and they're like, "Are you asking a question?"
Yeah. Are you starting to sing? Uh, I believe your journey there, though, kicked off in Ireland, in Dublin, many years ago.
It did many years ago. Yeah, when I was how old was I? 18. I was 1 month out of high school, and
Mm.
I bought a backpack, and I had $700 and a one-way ticket to Dublin. And I was like, I'm just gonna go as far and stay as long as I can with this setup. And I went from Dublin. I was only in Dublin a few days. Um, it's an interesting story. I had a bit of a premonition, and an event unfolded when I was in Dublin that I had previously dreamed about, and then I was like, cool.
No
I'm gonna
way.
take a
You'll have
bus.
to tell
Yeah.
us now. I love this stuff. What happened?
Well, it's interesting because it's something that stuck with me forever. But like I had this dream once when I don't know how long before the trip of sitting in this cafe in Ireland somewhere, sitting in a cafe drinking a cup of coffee, and there was this large like bouncer at the place, bald
Mm.
head, probably late 40s, early 50s, and he was having like a little joke around with this little tiny old lady, like shrunken, shriveled, gray hair, very small, probably in her 80s at least. And they were having this little banter, and she was like shaking her finger at him, and he was like ribbing her up and having a joke. And I'm sitting there drinking this cup of coffee. And this is like a dream that I had. And then my first day in Dublin, I'm like, I gotta get a cup of coffee, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like having this cup of coffee, trying to figure out, first of all, what have I done? Like, I've just landed in a foreign country with a one-way ticket. Don't have enough money to get home. I don't have plans. I've got nothing. And I'm sitting here having this cup of coffee, and I look up, and this little old lady walks in. And this big fella was sitting at a table nearby, and he gets up, and they start having this little banter and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, all right, well, I guess this is supposed to happen. Uh, yeah, it was just like this one moment. It's basically the only thing I remember about Dublin, other than the hostel I was at, because the next day I took a bus to Belfast, and I was up there for
That
five or
premonition
six
was
weeks.
so meaningful. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, I was like, huh, well, I'm on the right track, but I still don't have any plans, so. I was like,
Yeah.
I
I
gotta
can,
go.
I love that stuff. I had a premonition about my wife before I met her, except
Ooh,
in the dream, we were both riding on a giant swan, like a real swan going down a river in wearing kind of medieval sort of
whoa.
tunics and jerkins. Is that what they're called?
Oh
Kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
little
The little
leather
jackets.
waistcoat type thing. Um, and yeah, then I met her. I was like, I had a dream. I had a dream about you. Now, we didn't get to ride a giant swan down a river, but I did end up marrying her, so that's
Yet.
kind of cool. So you went from Belfast, then you made it to Scotland.
Yep, yep. So I was in Belfast, I think maybe 5 or 6 weeks. Um, doing some cash in hand work, did a little busking, caught the ferry over to Scotland, and then hitched my way to Inverness. Spent a few days there, walked out to Loch Ness, had a bit of a swim, came back, did a little look around for work, couldn't find much. And then how did I get to Edinburgh? I went to Edinburgh. I think I took a bus. I don't think I hitched. And then I was in Edinburgh for 5 or 6 months, I think. And that's actually where I met my wife in a
Mm,
hostel in Edinburgh, an Australian girl. That's how I ended up here.
yeah. Were you nervous about living in Australia being so, I mean, you hear a lot of Irish people going, it's just so far away. I mean, there's a lot of Irish parents who don't mind the idea of their kids emigrating, but going to Australia is that step further. You're like, oh man. And
Mm,
I know from having a brother out there for most of my adult life, you just don't see people as often as if they were in the States or
no,
Europe.
you don't. I didn't really think about it. I
Mm.
mean, like I said, I had a backpack and a one-way flight to Dublin. So I was kind of just like, just going places and doing things. I didn't even tell my parents I was leaving the country the first time till about a month before I left.
Mm.
Uh, and so when I met my wife, Roxanne, um, I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna move to Australia. Well, why not? Just do it. Just
Yeah,
do it. Just go to Australia. Another one-way ticket and a suitcase, and that was it. That's everything. And I've been here ever since. That was 2008.
yeah. Well, it's obviously working for you. The outdoor life suits you. Um,
Thank you. I like
let's
it.
dive into some the three remaining habits because I love this one. Treats are treats.
Mm,
And
yes.
again, this is just, it may seem obvious, but actually, when you listen to it, you're like, that's actually the missing piece. And this one resonated with me the most, I think.
Yeah, it's one that hits people, and it kind of reframes a lot of habits.
Mm,
A lot of these they all overlap. A lot of this stuff is driven by emotion and habit, but when we start recognizing the habits, we can start breaking them. And the idea is that like a treat is a special thing. It is an earned thing, an enjoyable occasion, event, or object that is earned as on special occasions. And I'm sure we've all said it or heard someone say it. Oh, I'm just gonna have a little treat after dinner. Oh, it's been a hard day. I'm gonna treat myself to a glass of wine and a block of chocolate. And the thing is, if you're treating yourself to something every day or any regular occasion, every Friday, every Saturday, going out for drinks and pizza, you're not treating yourself. That's just your diet. Like,
boo,
I
boo,
know it's
Josh.
awful.
I loved
It's
it in
terrible. I know
in
it's
your TED
terrible.
talk. There's an audible gasp when you say that as it dawns on people. They're like, "Oh God, he's right." There's a
Yeah.
nervous chuckle. Then,
Oh,
it's not a
the
treat. It's my
photographers
diet.
at the event came up to me after the talk and they're like, so I just realized that that glass of wine or two that I drink every night is actually just my diet. You could see like the misery on their faces. And I was like, oh, sorry, Pete. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
case.
great talk. Ruined my life. Fantastic. Come back soon.
You should definitely listen to it, everybody.
Yeah. But I guess it does make you think again, and it is an element of mindfulness. So much of what you talk about is mindfulness, is mindful
Mm,
eating. It's just trying to remove that automatic behavior that sense that we've all had. You sit down,
Yeah.
you open a bag of whatever it is or a packet of whatever it is, and then you know, as at some point you look down and you realize, oh my God, I've eaten everything here. It's that sort of that
Yes.
mindless just
Yeah.
gobbling of things. So I think anything that can just stop us a little bit, just stop us long enough to help us to ask the question, do I really need this? You know,
Yeah.
is this actually a treat, or am I just really used to eating 300 grams of airport chocolate every evening? Uh,
Yeah, I mean, like the idea is like you don't get a treat for existing. Like you don't get a treat for finishing work. Like you're gonna do that Monday to Friday for like 50 years. Uh, that's
well, when
not a
you put it
special
like that, we
that's not
definitely
a
need it.
special occasion. Yeah, you can self-medicate through that if you need
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
but it's not a treat.
Mm. Good enough. I like this because there's a bit of forgiveness coming in. In fact, the last two habits are you
Mm.
putting your arm around us and saying, you know what, we're
Yeah,
all doing our best, so don't be too hard on yourself. We've got good
that's
enough, and
right.
mistakes happen.
Yeah, that I mean the thing is, we can be hard on ourselves and we can be hard on
Mm,
people. My job is literally to be hard on other people, but I try to meet people where they're at. The thing is, the fear of failing stops so many people from trying.
mm,
So you have to understand that there's a level of regression, there's a level of failure in every new thing, especially any long-term endeavor. So the idea is that, and this is just because I see this all the time with clients. Like you go out to dinner, you go to the pub, whatever, go out for Italian, and you're like, oh, none of these fit my macros. None of these fit my whatever diet I'm on. I'm just gonna get the, giant pile of pasta with cream sauce, a bottle of wine, and my body weight in gelato. And you're like, what? Because there wasn't a perfect option, you're just
mm.
gonna do that. And the idea is like, no, you gotta find something good enough. And the more often that we choose better, and the more often that we choose something that's good enough, like the quicker our life changes. You can be a completely different person in a year just by choosing a little better each day or doing something good enough. And my example of a good enough food is like, if we think about like what is the most like basic meal that most people are gonna be like, well, that's good enough. A piece of meat or some sort of protein, a little bit of
Mm.
salad and a dinner roll. It's like the world's most basic meal. And people are like, yeah, that's fine. It's not perfect. It's probably okay. Well, you cut that roll in half and you stack it together. It's a hamburger. There's nothing wrong with that. People give the hamburger a bad name, but it's literally just a bit of grain, some vegetables, and meat. It's all the other stuff that people think they have to have with it, the
Mm.
fries and the drink and all the sauces. But it's like, if in doubt, just get a hamburger. It's usually good enough, or a schnitzel, or the steak dinner, whatever it is. There's going to be a better option. There's always going to be something that's good enough and isn't going to set you back too much.
Yeah, I love that because it is the desire to be perfect, you know, and I guess a lot of the social media accounts that people follow and you know the so-called gurus and all that they do preach this level of perfection or certainly project it,
Mm,
and I guess that's what troubles a lot of us. And then it's the mistakes happen that you know we are going to make a poor choice from time to time, and I guess just
that's it.
referring once again to the times when I'm on the road and you know it's late at night and I've just done a show and I'm just that sort of nervous, starving, adrenaline fueled hunger that you get, and I'd eat the whatever the quarter pounder meal. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that was probably the one that made me feel kind of the worst. You know, I went for the fries and the shake, and I had myself convinced I needed lots of carbs. Maybe I did. I don't know, but I didn't need them at 12:30 a.m. So the next morning, in particular, I felt really rotten after it because I don't usually eat that food. But
Mm,
you got to accept it. Okay, look, I made a poor choice, and that's okay. Mistakes happen.
that's it. And the only real long-term mistake is to give up when you've made that mistake. It's that kind of like, well, I ate a slice of cake at a kid's birthday party, so I'm just gonna eat the whole cake. What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. It's like if anything you do is against working to the detriment of what you're trying to accomplish, that's a mistake. and we're all going to
Mm.
make them. Especially when you're new to nutrition, or you're on a new diet, or you have a new goal for strength, or whatever it is, you're going to have a setback. And there's going to be a setback because of your decisions. And the worst thing you can do is dwell on that. The best thing you could do is just wake up the next day and keep going.
Mm. Tell us about the Indian cookbook before I let you go.
Yes. Man, it's been a project that's been about a year in the works. It's called Macro Masala, and it's a traditional a nutritional take on traditional Indian flavors. And it's basically because I'm doing this with a friend of mine who's a chef that was trained in India. And I've been getting all these recipes from him, and like I love Indian food. I love South Asian food, Southeast Asian food. I like to cook.
Mm.
And it's like so much meal prep stuff and quote healthy food is boring, and boring white people food. They're like, oh, just grill the salmon with a drizzle of olive oil and put it on some fresh rocket. I'm like, that sounds boring. I want flavors. Coming from the guy who lives off of yogurt 90% of the time. But it's like I like spices and I like flavors, but so
Mm.
much meal prep stuff and healthy cookbooks, it's like you don't get any of that. They're like sprinkle with salt and pepper. And I'm like, okay, but that's one more. So I was like getting all these recipe ideas from my buddy, and I was kind of like, wait a second, this doesn't exist. Why don't we have like a nutritionally focused, like South Asian Indian cookbook? Like, why is there nothing like this? And I was like, okay, well, let's make it. Let's make this
Mm.
happen. It's been about a year that we've been working on it, and it's got, main vegetarian, non-vegetarian mains. We've got some drinks, even like a masala chai. We even have a dessert option in there. Like there's just so many things that go into it, and it's got a primer on like how to use spices and what all the spices are. Like it's as
Because that can
authentic
be
and traditional as
intimidating.
possible.
It can be
It is.
intimidating, I think, that you go, I'm gonna cook myself an exciting Indian meal, and then you look down through the ingredients, and it's like,
Mm,
oh man, I'm gonna have to spend 4 days with a translator in an Asian supermarket before I even get the ingredients for this thing. So,
yes.
will you make it accessible, things that we can have in our
Yes.
cupboard without doing a degree in Urdi to get them?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, there are some spices and things that are, essential, but it's like if you got cumin, you got some cinnamon, you got some turmeric, you can do a lot of stuff.
Mm,
And so there's a primer on like what the spices are and how to use them, and there's a little blurb on each food about like where it comes from and sort of the history or where the recipe comes from, because my buddy trained with a few high level chefs, and
mm,
some of the recipes were kind of handed down as well. So it's a really good selection. I'm stoked because I get to eat all this stuff all the time. Some
yeah,
great breakfast options. I've actually got this recipe in there that's for paneer, which is like a cheese, and it's a scrambled paneer for breakfast. And so you scramble it kind of like um, scrambled eggs. And
mm,
it's got, red onion and toasted cumin seed and fresh tomato, and you serve it on flatbreads, and it's like 40 grams of protein per serve. It's really nutrient dense. It's one of my favorite breakfasts. I'll meal prep it for a full week and do a double batch. Um, and like just being exposed to like a completely different way of eating, and a new spice profile. Like it's great. I'm stoked. I'm really stoked. That paneer
yeah.
recipe actually is on the website for free if anybody wants to try that.
Okay. And the website is,
Strongforlife.online, Strong for Life
yeah,
online coaching. I've got a few recipes up there. I've got the world's best protein pancakes as well, but that paneer one is something special.
nice. I'm definitely going to. I'm not sure about the scrambled cheese, I'll be honest with you.
Listen, it doesn't sound appetizing. It's
Yeah.
delicious. Like
Okay. I'll keep
it's
an
trust
open
me.
mind. I'll keep an
Yeah.
open mind. Well, look, it's great. We can't wait till the book comes out and we can try a bit of that. If you're looking for another collab, maybe you and I could work together on the Golden Girls MMA episodes. Um,
I'm down.
that I
I'm
think
in.
people need. Uh, Josh, thanks so much for your time, man. I know it's bedtime there in Hobart and you put the kids to bed and everything well in advance so we could have our conversation. So I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to put the link to Josh's TEDx talk from Hobart in the show description as well. So you can just click on that and watch it. As I said, it's just really accessible. It's not too long. You don't have to sit through 2 hours. It's really just 15 minutes of just nuggets. And Josh delivers it all in his very accessible and fun style too. Lovely to meet you, my friend. And hope we get to talk again soon. Keep up the great work.
Thank you for having me.